Welcome to the stream.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello, hello, hello. It is a beautiful day. Asa, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. So I was just telling Sarah, y'all, that I had never read Ray Bradbury. Maybe as a child, maybe The
Mm,
Martian Chronicles, but I don't remember. And so this was a first for me. So I'm feeling not only the thrill of having read a great story, but have discovering an author I'm excited about. That's where I'm at.
exciting.
Context for everyone, welcome Taylor Ann Wright, is
Hello.
that today Sarah and I are discussing a story from this anthology of short stories called The Dark Descent. This is a horror short story anthology, and today we're at page 167 of this book. This is story 13 or 14 maybe. We're discussing The Crowd by Ray Bradbury. Taylor says, I've also never read Bradbury before. I found a free audiobook online and it was great. Right?
That makes me happy.
Late to the
Yes.
party, you and me, Taylor, but here we are, bells ringing.
Wonderful.
I'm
The party
excited.
bell.
Party bell. Sarah, how are you feeling? How are you doing today? Let's tell us who you are. Tell us, let's get into it. How are you?
Yeah. Well, I'm doing fine. Hello. Hello, everyone. If you've never been to one of these before, just welcome. We're so excited you're here. This is a place where we come and we talk about writing, the writing that we do and the writing that other people do, such as Ray Bradbury. I am Sarah Ray Werner. I am a, let's see, writer and podcast producer living in the Midwestern United States. I have an audio drama called Girl in Space, and I just realized I have my mug. I have a nonfiction podcast for writers called Right Now with Sarah Werner. It just turned 10 years old, which is insane to think about. Yeah,
That's
I have a,
amazing.
oh my gosh, I have a decade old podcast. So
Also,
that's,
wild how legitimizing a mug is.
I know,
I
right?
see a mug and I'm just like, okay, that's the real deal.
It's
Which
so
I mean,
real.
your podcast is the real deal, but
Oh, thank
props
you.
on a mug.
Thank you. I got real excited when I first started. This is actually the beginning of how I lost my day job. And by lost, I mean left willingly. But yeah, I was given an ultimatum eventually because I'd gotten so much merch because I was so excited about having my own podcast that I was wearing like right now t-shirts and right now mugs. And they called me in, and the HR lady was like, "We need to talk about your priorities."
Oh my
And I
God,
was
really?
like, "Well,
Really?
let's talk about them."
That
Yeah,
is wild.
I know.
That
Thank you,
is
51
wild.
Tesla.
10
Thank
years. That
you.
is really something.
So,
If it's your first time talking to me here, I'm Asa Merritt. My background is in screenwriting. I wrote a series for Audible starring Stephanie Shue called Six Sermons I'm really proud of. I'm on YouTube because I've become a short story writer. And I'm trying to document this process of becoming a short story writer, learning to write them. Part of that is reading them, of course, reading these great masterpieces, which is what brings us to The Crowd. So, a quick hit here if you're listening and you didn't get a chance to read The Crowd. The Crowd is a story about a man who gets in a car accident, and it's a very vivid, rich, cinematic story. Really is the accident, and he's in the accident and he's on the ground and he's bleeding and he looks back at his car flipped over on the road and the wheels are spinning and faces come towards him. A crowd of faces surround him, and it generates this feeling of fear. After the fact, he's in a hospital, he's trying to unpack this, he's talking to his friends, he starts studying other car accidents and similar crowds with similar faces. In fact, some of the exact same people show up to some of these other crashes. We'll talk about the end of this story in this chat, but the ending packs a punch as well. Yeah, so that's the quick hits, everybody. That's the quick hits. This is the easy one to find. The Crowd by Ray Bradbury. As a reader, Sarah, so the way we do these, we talk about what we can learn from these stories as writers, but obviously, of course, we're people, we're humans trying to engage with these stories as art. How'd you feel as a reader reading this?
so I was excited. I've read Ray Bradbury, and I've read most of the October Country, and I believe that that's the short story collection where this book, or excuse me, where this story first appeared in 1943. Um, I I got into Ray Bradbury because of his like aesthetic. And what I mean by that is he was a quote unquote smart, quote unquote literary, writer that it was acceptable to like, but also he wrote about space and aliens and weird stuff and horror. And like, so I felt this was when my ego was a lot bigger and I needed to be validated by so many other people. And I was like, oh, I can read Ray Bradbury and I can still be a smart person, but also enjoy my genre.
Mm.
And, that was 20 years ago. And now I encourage you to read trash and not even anyway, we'll get into all that another day. But so I came into this fresh. I had not read the Crowd specifically. Um, it was less weird and more straightforward, I think, than a lot of his other stories that I've read. And that was surprising for me. Um, what I did notice was he has, and we can talk about this in a little bit, he has such a signature writing style that if you would have covered up Ray Bradbury's name at the top, I'd never read this before, I would know. I would have known it was a Ray Bradbury story. And we'll talk a little bit about voice and your this author's like signature style, I think, throughout our discussion today. But yeah, it hit me. It really made me think of the first story we read for Horror Story Club, which was Stephen King's The Reach. There's a lot of similarities, I think, there. Although the introduction to this story invites us to compare it to Harlan Ellison's The Whimper of Whipped Dogs, which we read, I think, just a few weeks ago, if that. It was fairly recent. Okay, I promise I'm not going to ramble on and on, but it was a good story. It was tight. It was compact. There is nothing to edit out, I thought. But at the same time, it was not my favorite Ray Bradbury story.
Okay.
So,
Right. And eventually I want to hear a little bit about how this holds up against his other works. I'm curious about that.
yeah. Now,
Yeah.
what about you? This was your first Ray Bradbury
Yeah,
experience,
so I really
TM.
enjoyed it. I want to talk about the style. I felt really compelled by this authorial voice, the way he writes sentences, the pace of the sentences, the paragraphs, at every level, the pace. Intra-sentence, intra-paragraph, and the story itself had this like wonderfully confident, propulsive quality that I definitely want to dig into. And as a reader here, I felt real horror. I really, you know me, Sarah, on my notation system, exclamation points are
I
part
like
of
it.
my is part of my annotating. And if I feel something or kind of something really sticks out, I put an exclamation point. And I want to say for the first time in this collection, I have a 5 exclamation point moment here.
Whoa. I
And
can't
so
wait.
yeah, I just like it engendered visceral horror in a way that some of these stories we've talked a lot about all the different kinds of horror, and everyone has different ideas about that, and I think we all show up for horror media to get those different feelings at different times, and I usually am drawn to the headier types of horror, the more psychological, but this one hit me like a little bit like closer towards the gut abdomen area. This was like more visceral for me than
Interesting.
so I want to talk about when and how that happened. So that was like part of my experience, and I think it was just also I felt inspired by this story as a writer. It feels like a story that I could write. Like, not that I could write this story, not that I could be Ray Bradbury, but the sort of like general gesture of it. I feel it felt accessible as a reader, and at some level accessible as a writer.
Yeah.
Taylor Ann Wright. I really enjoyed this story. It was eerie and kept me guessing. His writing is so distinct, even if I've never read him before. I agree. I want to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, we could just get into that.
That's a great starting place.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, you sort of led with that, Sarah. What is his writing style, and why could you? What is it about the style that you said you could pull this text out of a hat, not see who wrote it, and know it was him?
And there's probably people with a lot more Ray Bradbury knowledge than myself. So please let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. Um, there's just something with Ray Bradbury. He surprises me even when I don't think it, like, the surprise is intentional. Like, he gets my brain moving in different ways. Like, if all the other stories I'm reading are going this way, like the stripes on my shirt, Ray Bradbury is going this way. And he does that through a number of different things. You sort of mentioned his visceral descriptions, but I've noticed, while at the same time, being visceral, they're never provocative. Like, you can sit and exist in them. Whereas I think a lot of other horror, they would dwell on like the blood and the gross. But Ray Bradbury just, he goes to the heart of things immediately. He puts you in the mind of the main character immediately. He puts you in the heart of the main character immediately. Yes, Taylor Ann Wright says, I truly felt like I knew his main character. Yes, and was passionate and determined like he was to figure this out. The side characters even felt three-dimensional. He, they say if you're good at something, you make it look easy. He makes it look easy. This is a ton of work in this writing, but he also might just be naturally good at drawing characters. I'm trying now to think of, and I don't know if this is where we want to necessarily dive in, but the characters here feel so real. And it's not because we're told more about them. We don't even know what Mr. Spallner, who's our main character, who is in the car crash, we don't know what he does for a job. We don't know if he's married. Does he have a dog? I don't know. All we know is that he was in a car crash. He was unsettled by the car crash and the speed by which the crowd surrounded him. He works in an office job somewhere with someone named, is it Marshall? Morgan, thank you. And he has the liquid funds to hire someone to research newspapers. That's literally all we know about him.
And he drinks.
Yes, and he drinks. And he drives maybe a little too fast.
But kind of in like a Mad Men 50s way. Like,
yeah.
We're just having a drink. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We don't even know if he's well regarded in the community. All we know is that from the first moment, Mr. Spallner put his hands over his face. And I think this is the key to it, really. And I think what we're seeing is a gesture of human vulnerability. And I think Ray Bradbury is really good at getting at not what upsets us necessarily, but what helps us connect to a character that is going through something upsetting. And so then we feel it ourselves, like we feel the echoes of it. He puts his hands over his face, and then we feel, there was a feeling. So immediately we're in physical motion with this character. There was the feeling of movement in space, the beautifully tortured scream. Is that the narrator commenting on Mr. Spallner's scream? Is that Mr. Spallner, like, out of body experience, dissecting his own, like, the sounds he's making, the impact of the tumbling of the car with the wall, through the wall, over and down like a toy, and him hurled out of it, then silence. We feel along with the character, even though we don't know him. I think Ray Bradbury breaks so many rules. For a lot of people, I feel like a lot of editors would say, like, no, we need to know a little bit more about this character so that we can care about him, especially in longer form writing. And we know exactly what we need to know. The other thing that is really compelling for me, you talked earlier, did you say the drive of it or the propulsion?
Yeah.
I think you used the word propulsion.
Yeah.
And listen to this. This is 1943, and this is the sentence we have. It feels very, very modern. The impact and tumbling of the car with wall, comma, through wall, comma, over and down like a toy, comma, and him hurled out of it, then silence. You feel it. The propulsion is not only in the visuals, but it's in the words themselves. Like, he omits unnecessary words. He omits conjunctions. Like, he gets rid of articles. There's no through the wall. There's no through the wall because this is happening so quick. Through wall, over wall. And him hurled out of it. It's just, it catches you up in its momentum, and it's beautifully paced. And it's paced in a way that you can feel the motion that he's describing. And it's chef's kiss.
Gosh, I love that. I really appreciate you breaking that first sentence down. That was so useful. I want to bring in everyone else.
These are
Laura
good, yeah.
Humphreys, welcome. Thanks for being here, Laura. Taylor, he definitely has a way of pulling you into the world of the characters. For a moment, you're either within their skin or at least adjacent. 100% agree. Taylor, also the meat of the story, a car crash in which a crowd gathers, is so accessible. I know that feeling and what that scene looks like, and to take it where he did is so cool. Agreed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
And he does it
in
an economy of words.
Totally.
Yeah.
I so cinematic. So, and I think your point about the omission of articles is actually really critical. Yeah, it's mirroring something closer to the way we think, which is just the images come. They're not always in order. They're sometimes contradicting each other. Just to build off of that part where you said there's that long sentence about the car crash, then silence. The crowd came running. Faintly where he lay, he heard them running. Like immediately we've gone from silence to like all of a sudden he's hearing. This is like milliseconds apart. And just the courage and confidence to kind of say, okay, yeah, I thought you just said it was silent. Now you're telling me you're hearing them running. It's like, yeah, I am telling you because that's what I'm feeling right now, lying on the ground, almost died, Oh, yeah.
A master of the craft can do unusual things, can break rules, can break conventions, and look good doing it. Like,
yeah,
it's just so good. And I'm like, yeah, this is one of my least favorite Bradbury stories, but also I'm like, I love it. I love it. Because he's just, as a writer, I admire him so much. So much. Oh.
Let's go back to this idea that you articulated, Taylor articulated, Laura articulated, that the writer Bradbury here knows his main character. We feel compelled by them despite knowing so few of biographical details, so few traditional elements of characterization. Why do we care about them? And how does Bradbury do it? I have some answers.
Okay, well, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess the one thing that really strikes me is that it's very clear what he wants. It's very clear there's a mission here. This guy wants to understand what happened to him and how it happened. And it's like almost like a true crime engine a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, collecting the newspaper scrappings to figure something out. And it's almost like that is enough. It's like, because this person, this character cares so much about understanding what happens to them, I'm on board. They almost died, and their passion for this quest is like carrying me along with them. And it's just, I think it's like so strengthened. And this is where it just gets into like master the craft, like just varsity writing here, just omitting, like telling us the barest minimum about the job. I think that someone less confident or less masterful, or perhaps a first draft, there's a sentence like, I seem to have a penchant for accidents, he said over coffee in the advertising firm where he worked. No, we don't need that. We just need literally one image to set us in a material space. Okay, two men talking in an office. That's all we need. Anything else is superfluous to this dude's obsession about the faces that surrounded him when he died. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Anyway, so that's what comes to mind for me. But I'm also wondering why, and we got lots of writers here in the feed, just how you all think that this was achieved so effectively that like, and I felt this way with Jackson's stories, on the story club. If you're just popping in, we've done several. Jackson comes up a lot, and a lot of times her characters similarly, like, you don't know much about them, but you feel very wed to their POV, feel very close to a specific person. Yeah. How are they doing it? So yeah, I'm curious, Sarah, what you think, in addition to everything I said, helps do that, and if anyone else has thoughts too.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely on point with the omission of certain details and the inclusion of other details. It really reminds me to ask the question when I'm writing myself, what will connect this character to the reader? Like, do we need to know that it's an advertising office? No. Do we need to know? And so I think that it's good to take an incisive look at exactly what details are included and what details are left out, because the details can be everything. The details can also be too much, too overwhelming and distracting. and the details that we're given here are just enough. We've already connected with the main character. And I think part of that too is not just the which details are included. I think it's also, and this might just be me, but Ray Bradbury writes with an enormous earnestness that I feel. I read now, especially with Story Club, I read a lot of horror, and there's a lot of artistic writers, and there's a lot of writers who know what they're doing, but a lot of them are on the sidelines of their own story. A lot of them are observing and reporting on something. And a lot of them also are cynical. I see a lot of cynicism in horror, a lot of commentary, a lot of anger. We read some Thomas Ligotti, and there was definitely some anger, I think, behind one of the stories that we're going to talk about next week. Ray Bradbury is just a pure little angel. Okay, I shouldn't say that because, he probably, has his own life and everything that I don't know about. But in his writing, he loses himself, and I think that strengthens his voice. He is the character, and he's conveying us deeply how this character is feeling, what this character is going through. And he does it because he's willing to immerse himself fully in the story without any judgment, without any cynicism or I think too, it comes down to confidence, which I think we were talking about a little bit earlier. But just the fact that he's so earnest. He's like, yeah, this is what's happening, and I'm in it, and you're in it, and we're not going to laugh at anything. We're just going to be here in the story and just be here together and exist in it. Yes.
I love
Yes.
that.
Memorable. I like these comments that are coming in.
Yeah, let's bring in some comments, Taylor and Wright. That is such a great point, Sarah, because what you write, your reader will have to remember at some point. So what do you want to make memorable? I think that's a great point. It's like every sentence is an ask on our attention or our memory there's no right. We have to be so tender and gentle with our readers' attention and give them the credit that they will remember. And it's like if we give them too much to remember, it's like a losing faith thing. And it just seems like he's delivering the story.
He trusts the reader.
It's funny because like there's such a specific voice, but it is at the same time, I like what you're saying, like just it is detached from I don't know the writer's politics feelings, you know what I mean? It's stylized, but it's not like Kundera. Laura Huntress, I've noticed with Jackson and Bradbury that they have a penchant for weaving the character flaws, worries, and minor neuroses into the character. It makes them feel real and magnetizes an empathy. I love this thought.
That's so good. And honestly, Laura, that's a really good point because we're not told these things outside of what's happening. They're very tightly woven into the story. Boy, I appreciate that so much. It's in the tone of voice. It's in how Mr. Spallner reacts in the moments of and after the crash. We understand who he is through what he does and what he thinks. We don't need to be told anything about him. It's woven in completely. It's part of the story. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. All those flaws, worries, and minor neuroses. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, and they're just like out of reach, it's like the whole like tip of the iceberg idea. Like we know there's we know it's big. Like we know there's a full person underneath Mr. Spallner putting his hands over his face, but we don't. Yeah. And maybe that is part of the form, part of the short story invites that. Can I talk about my 5 exclamation point moment?
I want to know. I desperately want to know what this is.
Okay. All right. Let me see here. So I'll read it to y'all. All right. So what's going on is that this man who was in the crash is showing his friend all of his newspaper clippings. He's building the body of evidence that something is awry. And he says, this woman is in both pictures. Coincidence. The woman happened to be there once in 1936 and again in 1946. A coincidence once, maybe, but 12 times over a period of 10 years when the accidents occurred as much as 3 miles from one another? No. Here. He dealt out a dozen photographs. She's in all of these. Maybe she's perverted. She's more than that. How does she happen to be there so quickly after each accident? And why does she wear the same clothes in picture taken after a period of a decade? So here is where the story got, I'm just so excited
Yeah.
in literature and in writing to explore these moments that are just completely possible but implausible. This is this little like idea, a little mantra thesis I've been playing with. Implausible but possible. Like there's some reality in which a woman could weirdly be at a zillion different like car crashes, like some fluke of fate, chance, but it seems really twisted that that would be true. And I just love it when writers ride this line, and it, by not going, for me at least, by not going fully into the supernatural, it's way scarier. And we've seen Jackson do this also. And just like standing on this line of like, that's absolutely insane. This is the kind of thing that like, if you came to me, Sarah, and told me this, like, I would believe you. Like, Sarah's not crazy. She did her research, and I would get like chills. Whereas if you told me that there was like, I don't know, a ghost or something in each photograph, like that would be less compelling, I think.
Yeah. I think, and to that point too, I think that, I think it's really smart that Ray Bradbury has another character there to argue the things that readers might say, because I was thinking in my head like, oh, it was a coincidence, and the Morgan, his coworker, is like, that's a coincidence. So like Morgan is a stand-in for the audience at that point, and we see Mr. Spallner's firm belief. It's an unquestioning belief. He doesn't even question like, oh, am I insane? He's like, no, this happened. Here's the photographs, Morgan.
And we see Morgan acceding to that.
Yes.
You know, we
Yes.
see Morgan signing off. He's like, ah, you're right. That's super weird. I think that's a great point, because like we find ourselves in these stories always asking like, well, what if they're just insane?
Yeah.
And I think you're totally right that by including another character, it undermines that.
Yeah.
Laura Huntress, I shared a video to the Discord. We have a Discord, everyone. We'll share some details about that, where jamming is happening among readers and writers. I shared a video to the Discord of him talking about always using intuition rather than intellect in writing. He trained on the works he loved rather than collegiate training, very gut-based. Well, that's inspiring also. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because what do you learn from reading something that you enjoy versus something that you're forced to read? You know, how much more open are you to certain things? I love that. That's
I love it
great.
too. And just like learning how it works on your own terms, you know?
Yeah. I have a lot of writers, slightly off topic. I have a lot of writers who say, like, you know, I can't be a writer because I don't have an MFA, or I can't be a writer because I don't have a writing degree. I don't have a college degree. I don't have a high school degree. And it's like, do you read books?
Right. I mean, I think the case is increasingly really convincingly made that it's like there's such a risk that you'll hurt your writing.
Yeah, there is. Oh my gosh, all the stuff I had to unlearn after that collegiate education.
Right.
I had to unlearn. I spent years unlearning a lot of what I had learned.
Well, what else can we learn now that we're learning from on the gut level from this story? Yeah, what else really kind of sang for you?
Yeah.
Sarah, if
And
there
so
are other parts.
if I can pick back into your 5 exclamation point spot, what was it about that specifically? Like, it was very good and very concise, but like, why 5 exclamation points?
Well, I think it's just because how I'm imagining a circus act, and you know, if we got tons of street performers here in Mexico City, and there'll be these guys that string a tightrope across the 2 red lights for the duration of the 90-second red light, and get up on that tightrope and juggle for like 80 seconds, hop down, string it down, go collect tips, and then the red light turns green. It's absolutely insane. But they're using a real thick tightrope. They're not far from the ground. You know, they're using both their legs. And then you compare that with, say, the French artist who did that tightrope walk across the Twin Towers.
Oh gosh.
30 years ago, famously without ropes. Right. And so for me, this passage is walking the tightrope sort of towards that latter example, where it's so impressively could be supernatural, but could be real. And I think like as close as you can get to that level of plausible but improbable, that is like the ultimate goal. That's the kind of limit. We're talking calculus that you're trying to get to. That's the limit that you're trying to get to. And I got there for me. So yeah, I think that for me, it just, and it cranked up, it was like, okay, here's all these clippings, it got more and more improbable, but stayed plausible. And the end of that paragraph to me, like, hit that sweet spot. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, because I'm always curious, like, why do we love what we love? And I mean, just like Taylor asked earlier, like, what makes a character memorable? Like, why do we hold on to certain things and forget or reject others? And so I like to know what like sticks with people. And I mean, is that usually we talk about this at the end of our episode, but like, is that something you're going to try to take away and implement in your own writing?
Well, I just think, yeah, generally like the broader project of putting us in realities that feel like they could be real, but on paper aren't, is like, that body of literature is like so exciting to me. So I think in general, like where I'm at right now in 2025 is like, wow, I want to participate in that body of literature and like engage with these weird spaces. The categories are tricky. Like, is it weird fiction, whatever, but like,
Yeah,
I love it. And so I definitely want to create stories that exist in this space. I think like what we can take as writers, I think there's a more like technical, granular lesson in that moment, in that it happens smack dab in the middle of the story. So, we've talked about midpoints, the classic structural idea, whether it's a screenplay or whatever, where something happens in the middle and the whole course of the story changes. And this fits that to a T. Just a reminder that like so many, and we've sort of circled this. It's just like, okay, and that's what I meant earlier in the conversation, where it's like, I feel like I could write this. Like, I didn't write this, and Bradbury's a genius. But like, okay, like this is not that crazy. It's like a vivid scene, puts us in a vivid scene that has an impact on someone. They kind of go through an experience. There's a critical turn in the middle that sets the story in a new direction, and then it ends somewhere exciting. So that's something else I feel like I could take from this. As you can see, a lot of excitement this morning. What about you, Sarah? Like, anything here that you feel like could really augment your practice?
Yes. I love I've connected with the word that Laura shared, the intuition, the instinct, rather than the heart versus the head in writing. And it feels like he felt his way through this story and was like engaged in it in a way that wasn't just putting words on paper. He was sharing an experience, a feeling, a sensation in a very earnest way with us. And so it's a great reminder that we can write things that we genuinely love. It's very easy to feel the need to write to impress people, or to write to a certain standard, or to write in a certain style. But I feel like Ray Bradbury was, I mean, as cheesy as this sounds, he was like really true to who he was, and he did not deviate from his voice. And that's why it comes across so strong. So yeah, it really makes me excited to just be myself on the page.
Gosh, what a beautiful thought. Easier said than done, right?
Yeah. Oh, and that's honestly, this is it's such a simple story, and it's told in simple language, but there's a lot more. There's so many decisions he made intentionally as he felt his way through this story, that again, he makes it look easy.
Right. Well, just context for folks who didn't know this, I didn't know this. This is from the intro here from this anthology. For just over a decade, from the early 40s to the late 50s, Ray Bradbury produced an extraordinary body of work in the short story form, stories of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, that was quickly recognized as a significant contribution to American literature. So, I mean, just reps, the whole idea of reps. I think he famously said, if you write a short story a week for a year, you're guaranteed to have some good ones. Just the volume, I mean, maybe he wrote this in a sitting. Who knows? Maybe he rewrote it over a year. But this is inspiring stuff.
Well, and you saying that reminds me of something else is we don't get to read what these writers threw away. Like we tend to see, we don't know what was in Ray Bradbury's like trash basket, right? We see the hits keep on coming. What we don't see, this was maybe a story he wrote on a Thursday. We don't see the stories he wrote on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
True. Right.
Like
Yeah.
and so that sheer volume, I think that honestly it's something to think about as writers. We're like, oh, I need to write one perfect shining story. And it's like, no, you need to write a ton of stories and then you'll
Right.
realize that one is good. You polish that one and then you keep going. So it's just there's so many good reminders in here about how to create things that matter to you and to your audience. So so good. So good.
All right, let's talk about the ending because for
Ooh, can
folks
we
who didn't read the story, maybe they're ready to hear it.
Well, can we talk first? I
Yeah.
think this will segue into the ending.
Yeah.
Let's talk real quick about the crowd. So we've talked about Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Spallner. We've talked about how the story feels, what happens to Mr. Spallner. What's up with the crowd?
Okay. What is up with the crowd? So the crowd immediately made me think in the title, made me think of The Fog.
Yeah.
by
Oh my
Stephen
gosh.
King.
Yes. Yes.
And just immediately just this general idea of like kind of an opaque gray other as a source of horror. So like it immediately embodies a horror object that we can map fear onto, was my experience of it. I mean, the word itself, like crowd, is one of these words that like if you imagine if we say the word like hammer, like what we're imagining is like pretty similar. But like if we say the word crowd, like you might be imagining like the Vatican when the new Pope, and I might be imagining like Mardi Gras. And it's just it's this word that is like has this cool evocative vagueness to it that I think really serves horror and terror. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And then like more concretely, like kind of the English paper of it all, I think it's like, I mean, it's tricky. It's a rich metaphor. I don't know. It's like some of the crowd is new, some of the crowd comes back over and over. Yes, the ending suggests that maybe the crowd is a specific league of people, but I think there's all kinds of open readings where the recurring faces in the crowd are just embody a kind of eternal evil. Yeah. So
yeah,
those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on the crowd. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. What hit me was I love what you said about mapping out fears and anxieties onto the mass, the collective noun of the crowd. I really, really like that. Oh my gosh, Taylor says they're the actual first responders.
I'm sure they inspire each other. One story can adapt into a different iteration. Oh, yes. I think, Taylor, you're talking about writing a ton of stories.
Yes. Yeah.
And then finding that's
building
a great
momentum.
Point.
Yeah.
So
yeah, these actual first responders. And I think this is key. And this really goes off of what you were saying, Asa. And when the crowd first gathers, I've been in a car crash before, so this was like especially visceral, like to me. And maybe you have, I know it's very common. But I remember like a crowd came. Like it happened. And this just felt so normal. I mean, I know it's an abnormal circumstance. But there is something abnormal about this particular crowd. And Mr. Spallner, I love it when characters like foreshadow things. And he's like, there's just something not right. There's something not right. And it takes him a while to figure out like what was wrong about the crowd. But I love the building unsettling, like, because then you as the reader, you're inspecting it like, what is not right? What is abnormal here? And what we see are several very distinct faces. Again, this is the power of detail. There is a boy with freckles. There is a woman with dyed red hair and I think too much red makeup. Yep. There is an old man with thin lips or wrinkly lips. Yeah.
There's the thin face, pale man.
Yes. There's some just a few details, very specific pinpoint characters of the crowd. And they arrive. He figures out later They arrive within like milliseconds of the crash. And he's like, where did they come from? And so the mystery builds. And
Let's bring
at,
it. I want to. Sorry,
oh,
I'm
yeah,
going to
yeah, yeah,
interrupt you
yeah.
for hot. This comment seems really
Oh,
apropos.
this is good.
Yeah, go ahead. You want to read this one?
No, no, you.
Lore Huntress. The people in the crowd were reminding me of the characters in the Twin Peaks gas station Dimension. The little boy and his grandmother, the masked man, Bob, Mike, the arm, etc.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's splashes of color, it's detail in, and so I think it's interesting that like amidst the fog there's still something recognizable, there's still something that he remembers from it that he then carries on to eventually a second crash that he is involved in. I'm curious, so we have this impression of the crowd and Mr. Spallner goes back to work. I think 2 weeks later or something. While he's in the hospital, he pays someone to research car crashes in the area and like pull up pictures of the crowds that gather at these car crashes, which you alluded to earlier. He then sees, I don't remember if he's at a bar, like looking down at the street, or if he's in his office, but he sees a car crash that he's not involved in. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, let's. This happens. He's coming home from the hospital. He's in a cab. He instructs the cabbie to
that's
pull
right.
over
Yes.
and look at the crash. The wreck came into view. A body lay on the pavement. You knew there was a body, even if you couldn't see it, because of the crowd. The crowd. And yeah, does he see some? Is that where he sees someone? No,
So you reminded me there's two. So there's that one, and then there's a second one.
Okay, Morgan Taylor's on it. He sees two coming home and with his friend
Morgan. Because
Yes.
Morgan's at one. And I'm gonna just read this little part. And it involves a woman. So he saw a woman's body a moment before the crowd swallowed it up. Morgan said, "You look lousy. Here, finish your drink. I'm all right. I'm all right. Let me alone. I'm all right. Can you see those people? Can you see any of them? Oh, I wish we could see them closer." And he kind of like runs out into the crowd because he's so obsessed at this point. And the part that I found interesting was how the crowd, do I want to say, determines the fate of this woman. So the woman is horribly injured.
Directly which page you're at real fast?
Yeah, so I'm on page 170 near the bottom.
Okay. I'm with you. Got it.
So the crowd arrives within 21 seconds. And whether that's significant to you as a reader or not, I'll let you take that as you will. But he sees some familiar faces, a little freckled boy. And then what happens is a voice asks, just like at his own crash, "Is he dead?" Just like you would expect a crowd, a speculative crowd to ask. "She's dying," someone else replied. "She'll be dead before the ambulance arrives. They shouldn't have moved her. They shouldn't have moved her." So, you hear like, oh, if you see a victim of an accident, you're not supposed to move them because you could hurt them even worse. Was this prescriptive? She's dead.
Okay, so Taylor says yes. Yeah, I think it's clear because I think at the end that I think he explicitly articulates that that's a theory later.
Yeah.
And yes. Also, this is just super scary too. When they move the body, that person perishes. So scary at the ending crash. Right. So okay, and that's where it's like, who are the crowd? Right. Let's turn to the ending because then it's like, who are the crowd? What are they about? Are they just evil? Are these personal fears? Because they're more than personal fears because we have this other character, Morgan, who has validated his experience.
Oh, this is good. This is good too. We've got
this is Jimmy Wrights. Jimmy Wrights says Bradbury wrote the story based on a real life experience. Ooh, someone has context. Thank you, Jimmy Wrights. Years before, when he and a friend witnessed an accident, he remembered the woman who was badly hurt, but mostly the crowd that seemed to show up almost instantly. Yeah, this feels from a lived experience.
Right. And then, yes, let's look at this and then let's explore the passage.
Okay. Taylor and Wright. Are they angels of death? Are they ghosts are the ghosts from past crashes. That's what I got. That's what I sensed from the end. So
Yeah.
the end, what happens is there's a second crash. So our narrator has assembled a body of evidence that there is something very weird and creepy and strange going on, that the same people are coming back to crashes. He gets all these clippings. He's headed to the police. He doesn't make it because a giant truck comes and hits him. He goes out of the truck, or he gets out of his car. He's in the accident. And unlike the crash that started the story, this time he's not going to make it. And we get a really vivid play-by-play of those final moments.
And we get an interaction of the crowd. This is not passive. Like the crowd is playing, I think, an active role in the events. And that truck that hits him, I mean, did you get a sense that like that was preordained? Did you get a sense that like the crowd, whatever it is, had something, or maybe orchestrated that crash? Or that's what left me wondering. Oh, Taylor's headed to work. Wonderful. It's so good to see you here. Please do come and go as you need to. Yeah.
By the way, everybody, Taylor Ann Wright is on the internet in many places, YouTube, and most relevantly, the three of us, I think, soon, next week, are going to discuss The Frolic by Thomas Ligotti. So anyway, have a good day, Taylor.
Yes, we're
excited. Good luck on the new job. Here we are. Yeah, so let me just read part of this here. Okay,
yeah.
This is the ending sentences for everybody. He's on the ground. The crowd is around him. All right, that's me setting it up. Here we go. Somewhere, a siren. The ambulance was coming. But looking at the faces, the construction, the cast, the form of the faces, Spallner saw it was too late. He read it in their faces. They knew. He tried to speak. A little bit got out. It looks like I'll be joining up with you. I guess I'll be a member of your group now. He closed his eyes then and waited for the coroner.
Oh.
Whew. Yeah, what do you make of that?
Oh, I make a lot of things of this.
Let's
So it reminded me earlier in our discussion, I said this reminded me a little bit of The Reach. There's this like community of ghosts in the afterlife, or this community of presences in an afterlife that is something that is joinable, which I always think is so interesting. But really what got me is that last sentence, waited for the coroner. That's just so much dread, but it's also so earnest. It's just beautifully done. Spallner saw it too late. He read it in their faces. They knew. And what I'm curious about is like the causation here. If the crowd hadn't been there, would he still have died? And I think it's interesting. One of the most like poignant parts of this final crash scene to me is that he's completely passive. He cannot move and he cannot speak. He is a victim, and it's terrifying. He tried to move. He realized something was wrong with his spine. He hadn't felt much at the impact, but his spine was hurt. He didn't dare move. And I recently went through spinal surgery, and this just like punched me in the heart, because I know what this feels like to have something wrong with your spine and to know this is important. This is major. He couldn't speak. Opening his mouth, nothing came out but a gagging. Somebody said, "Give me a hand." We'll roll him over and lift him into a more comfortable position. And we know from the woman before who was in the crash, what does moving the body do? It's going to kill him. We know it's going to kill him. Spallner's brain burst apart. "No, don't move me." And there's no quotation marks around this sentence because he's thinking it, because he can't speak. "We'll move him," said the voice casually. And there's like such a cruelness in that. "You idiots, you'll kill me, don't." But he could not say any of this out loud. They move him, and the crowd says, somebody asks, "Is he dead?" "He will be. He'll be dead before the ambulance comes." And it's a pronouncement. And so, and then this all, just as Asa read for us, there's something sinister about this crowd's purposes and intents. moving the body when the woman was dead was maybe just something that naturally happens with a crowd of people who are not medically trained, who don't know better. But like, it's purposeful this time when it's Mr. Spallner, and we know it's personal. We know it is purposeful too. And they move him. Who moves him? And this is maybe a little, maybe unnecessary to ask, but like, is it one of these like ghosts who moves him? Is it the crowd acting like a crowd does out of ignorance and just moving him because that's what crowds do? Is it, I don't know. So I'm very curious here, I guess, to the degree of maliciousness.
Yeah. Yes, me too. And what really kind of muddles several interpretations for me is this the end of the ending where he's like, I'm going to be joining up with you.
It sounds very definitive, right?
It's so precise. It looks like I'll be joining up with you. I guess I'll be a member of your group now. So it's like, was it a choice? Is he electing to join the group? It looks like. So maybe it's just happening. Unclear, because like if it's a choice, he's choosing to join a really malevolent group,
Yeah.
a really pernicious, destructive, murderous group of ghosts. So it was unclear to me whether he's like electing to join this squad of like accident chasing ghosts, or if this was destined that they have like taken him.
Yeah. Well, and there's some reluctance. He says, I guess I'll be a member of your group now. There's some reluctance there. And I kind of took that as like he's sort of, if you can't beat him, join him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's necessarily what they were going for here, but just like, fine, you know what? I'm surrounded by evil. I'm just gonna let myself be part of it. And maybe that's where David G. Hartwell, the editor here of our anthology, made the connection to Harlan Ellison's The Whimper of Whipped Dogs, was this sort of, if you can't beat them, join them mentality that the heroine of that story goes through. I just now made that connection because it was very, I really initially was not making the connection between these two stories, and it seemed so much more similar to The Reach than anything else.
Yeah.
But thematically, I can now see that, what do you do when the evil is so big?
Right. What do you do when the evil is so big?
And how much agency do these ghosts have? How much agency do the people in the crowd have? Do they want to be here? Do they want to be doing this? Is this some kind of hell for them? Is this...
And like, as a piece of horror writing, it when this has come up in Story Club 2 before, it's like the worst outcome is worse than death. Like, death is not the worst outcome. Like, the worst outcome here is that it's not that you just get killed by some ghost in a car accident. You remain on this earth to harass and murder.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very dark. And I've seen some good comments coming in from Jimmy.
Jimmy, thanks so much for your patience. Bradbury made a list of specific nouns he'd use to prompt stories. It's why so many of his stories were the crowd, the veld, the rocket, the small assassin.
I didn't know that. That's so powerful.
Isn't it? Smaller dug too deeply into matters that were not his concern, and so he had to die and join them. He recognizes his fate and gives into it. Interesting.
Fate. Yeah. And I love that you use the word fate, Jimmy, because it really speaks to Mr. Spallner's passiveness, his helplessness. He can't move. He can't speak. I guess I'll be joining you now. It's complete. He's a victim, and he's a victim to fate. And that maybe even also speaks to the fact that he is in 2 consecutive car crashes, the first of which is not enough to kill him. The second one is he is fated to die in a car crash. And maybe this, Greek chorus, the crowd here, is just an embodiment or a symbol of that fate.
Yeah, I mean, right, yeah, and it's very like Oedipus Rex vibes in some ways, in that like the seeking for knowledge is his undoing. Like, had he not tried to understand, would he still be alive?
He wouldn't be in the path of that truck on the way to the police station.
Seemingly, Lore Huntress. I think the connection was just the crowds. One is from the point of view of members of the crowd. The other is from the POV of the victim. Whew, wow. I think it was Lore Huntress. Someone recommended we check out Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Ooh,
That's
yes.
Ray Bradbury.
Yes.
Another spooky season option for us. So, yeah, if it's your first time here, Sarah and I talk about a lot of short stories. We are currently working our way through The Dark Descent. There's talk of exhibition stories, which is to say stories outside of this anthology. We're going to do frolic.
I was like, what does that mean?
I know, right? I think of like sports exhibition matches
okay.
where like teams play each other and they're not in the same. It's kind of like for fun.
I don't know the sports. I'm glad you do.
That's okay. That's what we're here for, Sarah. We're covering each other's black holes. Speaking of black holes, the big book of science fiction. On Wednesdays, we read stories from that anthology. And on Fridays, we write. Tomorrow, the much anticipated, maybe you've seen the billboards, How to Write Space Horror Workshop. Tomorrow at 9. Jimmy has a thought. He wasn't meant to notice the crowd specifically. They're there to bear witness to accidental deaths, but they shouldn't be known as specific beings. They are the crowd in caps.
Interesting. We talk a lot in horror about like the sin, like what is it that brings you to this fate? And Jimmy is seeming to suggest here that like maybe it wasn't his fate all along, but he made the mistake of, trying to find out what was going on with the crowd, and that's just a no-no. So now you have to die and be part of them. Yeah.
Right. It's pretty iconic.
It really is.
Pretty iconic.
It
is.
So
we do have a Discord.
We do.
And because the Discord is growing, because really strong writers are starting to join it, we are leveling up.
Yes.
As the internet says, the Discord, and there's a survey. So if you want to join the Discord, I'm putting in the link, the chat here, a Google form. Well. And it's a 3-question survey. This is not this is not an application. We're gaining information about everybody so these writers can connect and everything. Go to that form, answer the 3 simple questions, and you get a link to the Discord. We'd love to have you. As we said, there's a lot of really great readers and writers in that mix, and we're so grateful for each of you who are here. Laura, Jimmy, I think you're there too. Taylor, a lot of folks are over there. We appreciate you, and it's been so fun doing this story club and continuing to grow this community.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. I'm so happy to be here at the very beginning. It's I think we're going to do some really cool things.
I think so too.
A things man was not meant to know kind of story. Yeah. I mean, and even though it does seem at the very end to be very like, here's what's happening, there's still questions around it, which is a really beautiful and hard thing to pull off, is satisfying the reader while also leaving room for interpretation and ambiguity. So
a motif of these great stories. I really, they just all seem to contain multitudes in terms of their endings.
I love it. I love it. Well, my friends, we do Story Club, Speculative Fiction Story Club, on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. So join us Wednesdays and Thursdays. As Asa said earlier, Wednesdays we do science fiction, Thursdays we do horror, and then tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, I'm going to just like memorize those time zones. Tomorrow, Friday, please join us for a little bit of a workshop. We're doing a space horror workshop. And we'd love to have you there for that as well. But we're here on YouTube every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So please do subscribe here to Ace's channel. And
Sarah is also on YouTube. But there are several channels represented here. So find us, follow us, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, everybody.
We will. I'm excited. All right. Bye for now, friends.